There is a man who lived 2000 years ago. Half the people who read this work, that man say he changed everything. The other half say he ruined everything. But here's what's strange. The people who say he ruined everything can't stop talking about him. They write books about him, they make videos about him, and they build entire careers around proving he was a fraud. If someone is a fraud, usually you would ignore them. If someone is irrelevant, you move on after a while. You don't spend your life fighting a nobody. So why can't they stop? In 1961, a French literary critic discovered a pattern in human behavior, or rather, he noticed it. A pattern that answers this question. He wasn't a theologian, he wasn't defending anyone, he was reading novels, and what he found applies to Paul, the apostle. Whether you believe in God or not, would be interesting to know about this. The critic's name is Rene Girard, and his discovery was simple enough that a child could understand it, but uncomfortable enough that most adults refused. Here is it: you almost never want something on your own. You want it because someone else wants it first, or has it, or points to it. Your desire passes through another person before it reaches the thing you think you want. Think about it in the most ordinary way. You're not interested in a restaurant until your friend won't stop talking about him. You don't care about a job title until your colleague gets promoted. You don't want the relationship until someone else is in it. The thing didn't change. You changed because someone else stood between you and the thing and made it glow. Girard called that person the mediator, not a priest, not a middleman, the person whose desire teaches you what you want. And he showed this isn't a law or a weakness, it's the basic structure of how wanting works in every culture, in every century, in every novel. He studied it. Now, here is where it gets uncomfortable. When the mediator is far away, when that person that you want through him, a celebrity, a historical figure, a dead hero, he is away. You can admire them from afar, openly. No shame, no rivalry. But when the mediator is close, same profession, same social life, same world, something clicks in you and you can't admire that person and you can't admit you're copying them. That would mean you're dependent on them, so you hide the imitation, and the hiding turns admiration into something else. It turns it into hatred, not because the person did anything wrong, but because they are close enough to be a rival, and admitting they are close enough or they are shaping your desire would cost you your self image, at least internally. Gerard found that this pattern produces a set of behaviors so predictable they work like law, not a religious law, not a moral one, but laws like gravity, something that governs, some things that govern us, that control us. They describe what happens, whether you believe it or not. The first one is the more you spend or depend on someone, the harder you work to deny they exist. Because admitting dependence means admitting you are not the origin of your own desire, and that is the one thing that modern minds cannot tolerate. The second one is whatever you accuse the person of doing, most likely you are doing yourself. The accusation is not a diagnosis, it's a mirror. You project onto them the exact behavior you cannot see in yourself. The louder the accusations, the more precise the confession. The third one is when the rivalry gets intense enough, you forget what you originally wanted. The object, or rather the thing that you think you wanted, disappears. All that remains is the fight. You are no longer pursuing the thing. You are locked in a combat with the person who stood between you and the thing. Gerard calls this the scandalon, the stumbling block, the thing you cannot get past and cannot stop returning to. No, these are not theological claims. Girard derived them from Stendhal, Flaubert, Dostoevsky, Proust. He was analyzing fictional characters and real human psychology. There is nothing in these three laws that require you to believe in anything supernatural. But watch what happens when you apply them in one specific case. We have a person who is called Paul, who wrote letters in the first century. His critiques say he corrupted the original message of Jesus, for instance. He imported foreign ideas, twisted a simple teaching into a complex theology that Jesus never intended. While applying the law, you can see that. Law 1 say that dependence disguised as rejection. The second one says the accusation is the matter. And the third says the object has disappeared. So every critique of Paul needs Paul. Their entire position is organized around him. So if you remove Paul from the conversation, they have nothing to push against. No one says Paul corrupted Christianity and then walks away to build a Paul free theology. They stay, they keep writing about him, and they make videos about a theology that is and not Paul. While they say Paul imported foreign ideas into the original message, they are importing their own framework, modern secular assumption and theology, enlightenment, enlightenment rationalism into the reading of the text. The cherry picking is the center of everything that they do. When you look at the three laws, the object has disappeared. They are no longer looking for Jesus. They are just fighting for Paul. The real person they claim to want, Jesus, is never described in any detail. He has no content of his own. He is defined entirely by what Paul got wrong. Without Paul, the object disappears. That is the scandalon. The three laws, three prediction, three exact matches, and none of these requires you to believe Paul was right about anything. This is a structural observation about the behavior of his critics. The question is not whether he was telling the truth. The question is why his critics behave exactly the way Gerard's secular framework predicts they would. If Paul had changed something fundamental, something so deep that ignoring it is not an option. A wrong idea gets corrected. A bad teacher gets forgotten. A fraud gets exposed and then everyone moves. But a man who changes what stands between you and the thing you want most, that man gets hated for centuries, not because he was wrong, but because he moved something that people needed to stay in place, and they still haven't recovered. The intensity of the accusation is the evidence, not evidence of what Paul believed, but rather evidence of what he did to the structure of people and the desire to reach for God. The framework doesn't tell you whether Paul was right or not. It tells you that the people who attack him are not doing it for the reason that they think they are. They think they are correcting a mistake, but they are just fighting a mirror